I'm recording now, I think.
Did I click? Oh, I may have accidentally pushed a button when I was trying to share. All right. This is just a welcome page. If we want to go around and just say who's here. Michelle, you want to start? Just say hello.
Hello, everybody. I'm excited to be here. I'll just say that, you know, I worked with Gay and Greg on a couple of things in the past couple of weeks. And when I have a break in between everything else, I try to check the message board and saw this today. And I said, yeah, this is something I definitely need to show up for. So I'm just glad to be here in any way that I can help. I'm excited to lend my voice. I also am trying to get on my computer. So if you see me, Tyra, let me back in.
I'll watch for that too. I think I'm the.
Oh yeah, Gary's house, so she can let you back in.
Greg?
Greg Titchener, JCPS teacher, and training away my days here recently. But important that we get out in front of a lot of stuff that's happening with JCPS. So glad to be on the call.
Michelle is coming back in. Let me let her in. And Tia.
Tia Edison, JCPS teacher, Kentucky Alliance board member. I can't say I'm excited to be here because I'm tired of these Zooms all day, but let's get it. We got to get it right, though. Go ahead.
Tyra?
Who? Did you say my name?
Yeah, just say hello. We're doing introductions real quick.
Tyra Walker, ECE resource teacher with JCPS, JCTA, elected recording secretary, and KEA, excuse me. I'm tired too. Kentucky Alliance Against Racist and Political Repression co-chair. And a newly appointed Juvenile Justice Oversight Council member for the state.
Is that what you said in JCTA?
For the state in the governor's office.
Fantastic. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Anita.
I'm Danita Wright. I'm with the Coalition for West Louisville Neighborhood Associations, and also was a part of the revival of the People's Agenda last year. And so there is an education component to the People's Agenda. The People's Agenda has a lot of components to it, and education is one of them. So this is the education component of it.
Awesome. Thank you for joining us. You were with us last week too, right? Kenyatta, I think you're next.
Hi, Kenyatta Dean Bacon, JCPS teacher.
Welcome. Kimberly?
Kimberly Johnson, JCPS teacher.
Sorry about that. Is anyone else here? Everybody? I'm Gay Adelman. I'm on the Kentucky Alliance board and also co-founder of Dear JCPS and parent of a Shawnee graduate who is now a U.S. Naval Academy graduate. And I guess I'll just keep going through these slides. This is only our second meeting of the year since the pandemic and everything else going on. The Kentucky Alliance Education Committee is just getting our feet back under us, and this is only our second Zoom meeting. This is just a screenshot I had last time, a reminder of what the People's Agenda is all about. As Danita mentioned, he was the leader of the revival work that was done last year, and so she's got some good information that hopefully she can share some of that with us today. And we can talk about the resolution that we made at last week's Education Committee meeting to go before the board and suggest that we revise the education component of the People's Agenda and get that work moving. Tyra, how does that work? We've sent the motion and we've maybe heard from, I don't know, 6 or 7 board members. What does it take to pass? Are we? You're not mute. You're still muted.
I'm sorry I hadn't responded yet, but I agree. So did Greg and Tia already respond?
I think so.
Can we it'll probably go ahead and pass. So can we say that under the assumption that it will pass? I don't think anybody's going to disagree.
Tyra, did you send Ike Thacker a link to this Zoom meeting?
I did not. Can you share it with him, please?
Is he part of the new Google email?
Share it with the, I didn't know that Ike was going to be on the committee, but definitely would love for him
I
to.
don't think he wants to be on the education component, but he wants to be on the overall. Is there an overall umbrella meeting of the People's Agenda, period?
We're working on all of that. With getting,
But that's what he wants to be involved with, that part.
Okay.
Yeah.
Anita, familiar with the People's Agenda? Do you mind giving a brief overview of the 8 issues?
Yeah, the People's Agenda has 8 components, but last year we added a 9th component to it, which is a social problem solving and debt reduction component. But it consists of, the original 8 was, as you can see on this brochure here, civil and human rights component. And I would say that's what the Kentucky Alliance is doing down there at Injustice Square. That would fall under the civil and human rights. Would you Kentucky Alliance members say that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm saying that y'all got some components already up and working. There's a community governance component, and that's the voters registration. I don't know if Kentucky Alliance is doing voters registration or anything. If so, that's up and running. You could say that that's up and running. There's a criminal justice system and citizen protection component. Now I was involved with KPAC, but you guys are starting up Kappa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So.
And I think I got those confused, Anita. The KPAC and Kappa, I thought they were like the same thing.
No, they're.
When you had called me about KPAC, yeah, they're different.
There's an economic development through community empowerment. Now, I don't know if you've got that running or not. Then the education and youth empowerment, as you can see, that is definitely getting ready to be up and running. You've got an environmental protection, public health, and human resources. I was involved with the Climate Louisville and Critical Resistance and the Sunshine Kids, Sunshine Group. You might want to connect with them to,
Is that,
there's no sense in restarting the wheel when you've got these components that are running. We need to just pull them all under this umbrella.
is that Sunrise or is that, Was it Sunrise or is it? you
The
said-
those young kids that was down at Jefferson Square over the last summer.
There is a big group of environmentalists called Sunrise.
Yeah,
Is that
You
the
know-
one you're talking about?
yeah.
Okay.
We're see, the problem with us is we're all scattered, and we need to be more condensed and more, just come under one umbrella, and that'll be you're making a stronger voice that way. So there's a workers' rights component. I know when I was with the Alliance, they were working with union. Are y'all still working with the union?
No, they dismantled the Jobs with Justice, even though I think it needs to come back, but it was just the leadership fell through. So, I mean, if somebody wants to take that on, that would be great if we could get that back and running.
Yeah, you see, these components are running or were running, so you don't need to reinvent the wheel. Just pull them all up under this one umbrella and get the committee, get the names of the people in that committee, get the chairs, the names of the chairs of those committees, and you're good to go.
So Dre, I see you joined us. We've done introductions. Dre, if you want us to pause for a minute so you can say hello.
Hello, I was just listening, trying to catch up. I know I'm late.
You're fine. You're fine. Welcome. Dre's one of the co-chairs of Kentucky Alliance. And Latasha's joining us. We can go ahead and let her in. Latasha, we're just pausing for a second. If you want to say hello. Sorry, I didn't mean to put you on the spot.
No, you good.
Both of you guys just came in, so we're kind of at a natural pause. So if you want to say hello, just let everybody know who we are. We can do that real quick. And
This is actually my first education committee meeting. I was just stopping through to see how the committee was working and talking, and I know there's a lot of things coming out of the committee, so I appreciate all the work coming out of the committee. So I'm just here to be a fly on the wall.
well, this is only our second committee meeting, so you haven't missed much, although there's been a lot of group work in different areas that we're kind of putting together through the coalition. So lots of momentum and lots of energy. Latasha, if you want to introduce yourself, feel free at any time. I'm going to move to the next slide. So I just threw a couple of things together here. As I was mentioning, there have been some other groups working to move in a similar direction. There's a teachers group that Kenyatta and Morgan Fisher and Latasha and I have been, and Yvonne, who can't be with us, she had to go to the dentist, I think she said. But Yvonne has also been helping with this Stand with JCPS coalition. And that has been kind of put on the back burner. But a lot of that work is coming into this effort right now. AROS, the Alliance to Reclaim Our Schools, we did a lot of coalition building May through July. That work is no longer part of AROS, so that is some work that can continue, the momentum can continue to come into this coalition. The new Student Assignment Coalition, we met on August 6th, I believe it was, and went through where we are so far with the different demands and where we all can agree and where we see this going next. The Kentucky Alliance Education Committee met last Monday. This is our second meeting. We made a lot of progress in the last meeting, including discussing the motion that was made to the board to revamp the education component of the People's Agenda. And so that's where we are at this time. I put this screenshot here. just because I had a big open space, mainly it didn't fit on the next slide. But it basically shows you a resolution that was passed in 2017 by the JCPS School Board. And it's a safe haven resolution that asserts that JCPS has a responsibility to welcome and educate all students, regardless of their immigration status, and to celebrate their contributions to our diverse learning community. The reason I put this here is because one of the things that Tyra and I have been talking to Dr. Polio about, and hopefully we can also speak with board members about, is the idea of getting whatever this coalition, the People's Agenda, list of demands, or some kind of statement that is a statement that requests good faith from the district to support a Black agenda, essentially the People's Agenda. They've done it before, so there's precedent set where we can refer to this safe haven resolution and suggest that they do something similar. The goal would be to have them do this by their September 29th board meeting. That's the board meeting where they pass where they will finalize their budget. And there are some budget items that we're going to be placing expectations and demands that they should, their priorities, and divest from, for example, the policing and top-heavy administration, and invest in the supports and resources that we've been discussing in our previous meetings, and make that part of a resolution that the district can support and get behind by that date. And as we head into the November election, the tax increase is on the ballot. So we have the ability to drive public opinion as to whether or not the district is acting in good faith to support a Black agenda by the September 29th board meeting, where they're also expected to pass the student assignment plan, which we also discussed in previous meetings, comes up short, especially in this time. So that's why I have on the next slide, why now? We're in the midst of a pandemic. We're in the midst of a movement for Black lives. We've got we're front and center here in Louisville, Kentucky, with Justice for Breonna and Say Her Name. And then we've got the November 3rd election coming up with the tax increase, as I mentioned, but also a Senate race. So we have national attention on us for the Senate race as well as the presidential election. And we still have a discriminatory student assignment plan that has not been fixed. Even the proposed changes only make it less discriminatory, but it's still discriminatory. So it doesn't come far enough. And it's still not safe to return to school, not just for COVID purposes, but also for the police in schools and the racist people practices and policies that have not been dismantled, as well as the curriculum and testing. And I'm going to pause for just a second and talk about this bullet, because since last week, there have been some further developments. Yvonne's trying to call me. I need to check and see if she needs the link, or if anybody can message Yvonne and share the link with her. She may be trying to get in. Since last week, we've had some developments in some evidence that the district is incapable of policing itself when it comes to identifying and evaluating whether or not whistleblowers have been targeted, and whether or not the testimonies of those who are witnesses to these events have had their testimonies manufactured and twisted. And there's a story, in my opinion, there's a pretty big story that'll be breaking soon around some of these issues. And I again think that the Kentucky Alliance can and should be in a position to also recommend and demand something similar to CAPA that addresses the district, because they're also not capable of policing themselves. So that may be further down the road, but I just want to make you aware that that's a new development in that area. And also, we have glaring racial inequities that continue to be exposed. I mentioned they can't self-police, and impacted community members have not.
Hold on, pause for a second, because you went too fast and I'm not understanding what kind of breaking evidence or something that you just said. What'd you say now?
So there's a story about to break. I can't reveal too much more on this.
See,
call.
that's what I don't like. You gotta tell us everything right now, or we can't move forward. Like all this
Some
half
things,
stories.
I think some things is because there are some other things that are in place that is preventing,
Not my
the,
story to tell. These are
it's preventing her from saying it. But
What?
when it comes out, she'll confirm that that's what she was talking about.
Okay, but that still don't help us with like a decision right now based on like how we're gonna write this demand is what I'm saying.
And that's okay. I just was saying that further down the road, this might lead to us evolving into some kind of CAPA situation, but it doesn't really impact our ability to make our demands for now. I was just kind of foreshadowing that there will be another opportunity that falls under this particular category in the future. And there may be more I can share with you, but it's not my story to tell. So until the teachers that are named in a particular text message are willing to come forward and reveal more information about who said what, and reporters start doing their work, because this is going to be a big media story when it comes out. So that's all I was suggesting. We lost somebody who fell off. So, and then this last bullet is that the impacted community that these proposed changes are intended to support, in particular our West End and our Black families, have not come out. The groups that represent the majority of these voices have not come out in favor and support of the tax increase. And so we also have a situation where the district is moving forward and planning to pass a tax increase that'll fund these supports when the community that they're intended to support isn't willing to vote in favor of it. So it's not a good look. It has the potential to backfire on the district. They need to be aware of that. We've requested a meeting. Tyra and Latasha and Danita and myself requested a meeting with Dr. Polio, and we were assured that we would have one before tomorrow night's board meeting. But then he replied back and said, or she replied, his assistant replied back and said that the board meeting decision had been pushed to September 29th. So I guess that in his mind meant that he didn't need to meet with us before Tuesday, because we haven't heard anything else. So we're going to have to continue to put pressure on them. And it has become evident since we've brought some concerns to Dr. Polio's attention in the last month or so, and his lack of response in that regard, it's become evident that they're not really interested in working with the grassroots groups. We've placed several calls to the consulting firm that they hired, and there's been no return call, even though in their proposal it says that they intend to work with grassroots organizations. It appears that they're working with those connected to the powerful elites in our community, and we're going to have to make our own way. And that's why, in addition to the resolution, that's why the other thing that the coalition so far has worked towards doing is creating some kind of pledge that solicits input like the People's Agenda will do. And so that's how we ended up working our way towards the Kentucky Alliance and the People's Agenda, and incorporating these demands into a document that we develop and present to the board and to district leaders to see if they are demonstrating good faith efforts in meeting our demands. Yeah.
Can I ask for a second? Did you say there was a resolution of their commitment to work with grassroots organizations? And what is that?
It has not been written yet. That is one of the recommendations that this committee would be tasked with. And Tyra and I have met with Dr. Polio to discuss the possibility of doing something like this. He didn't necessarily indicate negative or positive, which I guess at least it wasn't negative. But now he should hopefully have some kind of expectation that something like this is coming. And we need to get it. Next step would be to get a meeting with our board members and explain that they need to earn the Black and Black allied voters' votes, because as an ally to Black-led organizations and Black voters, until I hear more people in the Black community, the impacted community specifically say they support this tax increase, I'm going to recommend members of Dear JCPS and followers of Dear JCPS come out opposed to the tax increase. I'm willing to remain neutral and quiet until September 29th, because that's the last board meeting where the district would have an opportunity to prove and demonstrate to the community. And that's what we listen for, is what is the response of the community. And so that's the job of the People's Agenda, is to be plugged into those groups and those demands and negotiate, you know.
Well, I think, hey, gang, this is Latasha. I think that, Michelle, when you spoke about the company that they hired to do the job as far as working with grassroots organizations, I think that's what she was speaking about, like their commitment, that they already had a commitment to do it.
And I don't really know what you just asked me. Can you say it again?
Is there a consulting company that JCPS has hired to do the work or to speak about their work with grassroots organizations? And who is that?
Out of Danville, Kentucky. I'm drawing a blank on the name. I think it starts with an O. Osborne and Associates.
Okay, and and you also said they stick with their normal group or the ones that they usually work with?
So we've made an effort to work with them and have been pushed out, like specifically told members of the Alliance to Reclaim Our Schools. There's 7 different organizations in that coalition, and we were moving forward with this work back in May. And as a consensus, when we met in May, we agreed to do this work. And somewhere along the way, district leadership or the chair of AROS unilaterally made a decision to stop us moving forward in this direction. And we had several stops and starts before it finally came down to an email that was sent by the chair attempting to discredit the work that I was doing, as well as prevent other Black organizations from becoming members, because my opinion is that he felt that it would sway the vote of the organization and force us to go in a more business-friendly direction, which eventually led to an email that told the member leaders that we had agreed to support this tax increase unconditionally. He used the word unconditionally on 2 separate occasions. And as co-founder of Dear JCPS, an organization that was formed on holding district leaders accountable and demanding transparency, there is nothing that we would ever support unconditionally, especially when the student assignment plan doesn't go far enough and it hasn't even been approved. And the Black community has not come out in favor of the tax increase. Why would we come out and support unconditionally? As a taxpayer, I'm offended by that. And I even think business leaders would laugh at us if we came out and said, you know, we support this unconditionally. So for that reason, Dear JCPS withdrew its membership from AROS last week. And I'm also going to be publishing a press release. That's one of the things I wanted to notify you guys of today, because I am going to be publishing a press release explaining why we pulled out, and highly encourage the other organizations that are members to do so, because I want to be on the right side of history when all the dust settles. And what I have seen, what I've witnessed, and others, I know you guys have witnessed it too. Several of you on this call have seen it going on for years. So what I witnessed, I want to distance myself and Dear JCPS as far from it as I possibly can.
Hey,
Danita.
I'll make a suggestion about the People's Agenda. Just like the education component, the more organizations you get up under it as a coalition, you know, instead of just like don't just say the People's Agenda Education Committee, say the People's Agenda Education Committee, which consists of as many organizations as you can possibly can. If I were you guys, you know, try to recruit other organizations and build that organization up. The climate people that I'm with, they got about 80 organizations up under them that, you know, I thought that was just remarkable. So again, there's all of these little pockets of fighters all over the city. And if you can just pull them all in, you know, they're fighting for education, pull them all in up under the People's Agenda. That's a powerful letter. That's, you know, that if you sent a letter out to anybody and you've got that list of organizations, that's a powerful letter.
It definitely is. That is one area that is not one of my strengths. So if other people on the committee could kind of take on pieces of that, that would be really great.
I can talk to the Coalition of West Louisville Neighborhoods and see if they would like to join. I had told them about this meeting and everything, but I want to see if they want to officially join the People's Agenda. Again, not only the education component, but all the other components too need to recruit several different organizations that deal with what they're dealing with too. It makes them more stronger.
Definitely. And Jen Spalding just joined us. It's Jen's birthday. Say happy birthday to Jen.
Oh.
Hey, we're just talking about bringing people on board. Danita was just talking about bringing people on board, and that's one of the things that I had reached out to Jen about, because she is well connected with sororities and church leaders and different organizations like that. So I don't know, some of you guys already know Jen, but if a committee is formed around that particular task, I just wanted to.
Because, you know, we held a meeting with Diane Porter and 3 representatives of the academic portion of dealing with academics. And our worry was Wi-Fi cutting out on students, a lot of students getting on at the same time and the Wi-Fi crash, you know. And they were saying their problem is they had, well, polio. They said that polio went and had a meeting or a talk with Spectrum. He had a meeting and talk with AT&T, and they did not want to help. So they said they didn't want to help with issuing out, you know, free Wi-Fi or, you know, for a certain amount of time, just to help the kids out in the neighborhood, just have pockets of hotspots, you know. And I don't know, I was like, okay, well, I asked the coalition, you know, you guys want to write a letter and let us see how they act. I went to see how many Wi-Fi companies are in Louisville, and it says 25.
Well, didn't Spectrum, excuse me, didn't Spectrum say that they were trying to, this is Jen, thanks for the happy birthday shout out, but didn't Spectrum agree to like give discounts or give people free Wi-Fi? They were trying to, I remember hearing that they were trying to work and trying to help people to obtain
They said in the beginning, you know, from last spring, but I'm talking about like now moving forward.
So are they not doing it still? Did they just do it for a while and stop?
Like,
I mean, if they did
like
it
something's
before.
changed. Sounds like something's changed.
There was problems in the spring too with them. If you owed them a past bill, they wouldn't do it. And that was a mess.
If they did what now? What did you say? Would you repeat that?
So they were, I had students that needed that hotspot and, or there were students in my building that needed that hotspot, but Spectrum wouldn't do it if the family owed a past bill from Spectrum.
Yeah, or, transient addresses and credit and inability to use a credit card for a down payment on, there's just been lots of barriers. And there's an organization called NAMI Louisville, the National Association for Mental Illness. Several of you guys have been working with them already too. And I know they're trying to do, get devices and internet, and they've got some special programs available. But this is an example of what I'm talking about. The district has shut the door on the grassroots organizations that are actually working with impacted community members. And they've got a $1.2 million budget allocation on the September 29th budget that's going to Compassionate Schools, which is chaired by Mayor Fisher. Like, why are they giving $1.2 million to Mayor Fisher's organization instead of working with NAMI Louisville and working with Louisville PTO? They referenced that they talked to the PTA parents on one of their press conferences. They never mentioned PTO. The reason PTO exists is because parents of color, Black parents, West End parents, parents that are, and teachers at our schools that are struggling the most have been pushed out and shut out by the white privilege and structural racism in our district. And these groups are not being invited to the table. And so we've got to be making these demands. We've got to be asking those types of questions too, because the resources do exist. They're just not being directed in the right places. And, and along the lines of Wi-Fi too, you go to any urban community and you can get Wi-Fi at any street corner. It's everywhere. Why can't we do something like that in our West End, where no matter where you are, you can dial into a really nice Wi-Fi hotspot? Take some of that tax money and spend it on that. And everybody who lives in the West End gets free internet because the whole West End is lit up with Wi-Fi.
Well, just because of the kids having to do at home learning, for that reason alone, that's essential.
Exactly.
I classify it as essential that Wi-Fi's are essential, and they should be, accessible any and everywhere because of that alone, because of the necessity. Then children are forced to learn at home now. We also talked about, can they do both? Can they have hubs where the churches open up? We got enough churches. Let the churches open up and have schools inside the churches because there's enough space inside the churches. They said they were talking about that. They said they got a lot of pastors, reverends that are on board with that. So they're looking into that. So.
Anybody else want to talk about pods? Anybody know about the work that's being done at the churches in the community?
I know our church, I go to Bates Memorial Baptist Church. I don't know what's going on at this moment, but I do know that during the school year, we had offered tutoring, free tutoring with certified teachers. And they even had outings and everything. They have a really good tutoring program with Bates Memorial. I don't know about the Wi-Fi though. We've had some changes. We have a new youth director. So I'm not sure of everything that's going on right now, but I do know that our church has been very involved with the youth. And so, I think that that our church would be willing to help to do whatever we needed to do to help kids. I will say that.
Yeah, she said there was a lot of pastors that were on board with that. And they did speak about, but the Wi-Fi, is their Wi-Fi, are they Wi-Fi accessible inside, of the churches? And again, that should be no questions asked, just give it to them.
You guys, I stepped away for a moment and came back and heard pastors and church and Wi-Fi, and that is my lane. Was the conversation just around accessibility again and helping provide from the major tech companies?
Also having a small school hubs, turning them into school hubs where they open up for in-person schooling.
Right. So that's been what my last 4 weeks have been consumed by. We actually turned in a proposal. We've met with them at this point maybe 8 times, outlining exactly how that can happen. We have close to 20 churches in West End, Shavley, and Newburgh who are connected to us.
All right.
The unfortunate part is, as of Friday afternoon, on Wednesday, we heard that there was going to be JCPS support through stipends, which is part of what we've been asking for around not teachers, because we don't want to mess with that in terms of their responsibilities. But we asked for initially the degreed adults, that's what I call them, degreed adults who have a degree in education but cannot pass the praxis. We know that there are lots of those in our district, and we know that one of the things that needs to happen nationally, of course, but especially here, is that be evaluated in light of the teacher shortage. So we asked for them to be basically loaned to these sites if they volunteer to do so. If they want to come out and work in these churches, that the district would pay them stipend salary to do that. And then we actually went after the substitutes, because we felt like, in light of the governor's decision to make substitutes repay all of the money that they earned this summer from unemployment insurance, and the fact that JCPS is telling telling principals not to call for a sub unless they're going to be out for a whole week. These are great people who need money and really have no job prospect until we go back into school. So we asked for both of those. And as an in-kind contribution to the churches and making this work, we had community funders on board who were willing to provide money, food, supplies, help with Wi-Fi, anything that we needed. And Friday afternoon, basically JCPS said, nope, not gonna do it. Not gonna work with anybody.
Wow.
What?
Yep. Yep. So,
Who was that? I'm sorry. Who said they weren't gonna work with it?
JCPS.
Oh,
So, and I want to be very clear so everybody knows, we were asking, it's almost a $3 million proposal, but money was never an issue for the community funders. The large philanthropists in our community said that if JCPS got on board, they would get on board. What we were asking for is, we did not want our poor and Black children in this community to have glorified daycare. We did not want them to just be sent to a safe place. We think that's important, but we wanted to make sure that they had equal access. So we developed a 3-hour model. The first hour would be NTI support, where the staff person would actually make sure they're where they need to be if they need any help. The second hour was actually one-on-one reading tutoring, and the third hour was one-on-one math tutoring at each of these locations, 2 days a week. Again, it was a 5-to-2 ratio, 5 students for 2 adults. Both of the adults was the in-kind contribution, as we said, through degreed adults without teaching certificates, or through substitute teachers, or any other school employees that wanted to volunteer to go to these sites, which I've had numerous calls from people saying they would love to do this. And that was JCPS's contribution. Basically around $1 million in terms of actual stipend or money that would be allowed for this. But again, money was never the issue. but we don't know what it is because the answer was no. They would not work with the Black church. And that also included 5 sites in the community, which were the Boys and Girls Clubs, Cabbage Patch, Neighborhood House. They were a part of the proposal as well. And so when you see those organizations having those hubs, they are doing an extension of what they've already been doing, which still is around families having to pay for those services.
You think they were afraid of because it sounds too much like charter schools?
I don't know. I know that we blasted them several times about their inadequacy to educate our children. The fact that so many of them did not participate in the spring. We used the current climate about, race and them putting money behind Black Lives Matter, as well as the corporations actually putting their money where their mouth is. That was never given a consideration or a reason, especially when you bring in those, Cabbage Patch and Boys and Girls Clubs. That isn't their agenda at all. And for the Black churches that were involved, there were conversations among them around, enough is enough in terms of our kids, but they have no ability to link and start any kind of, to go the charter school route or anything else at this point. So I don't believe that was a real out.
Have you thought about retired teachers?
Yes, we thought about them as well. The only issue is with the late date, it would be so much easier if these people were subs or were already employed, because we want to make sure that, we've got good background checks and, all the kind of stuff that goes like that, and would be easy to pay those people. When you talk about retired teachers, you get into just a little bit more complicated. But I think that's what's going to end up happening. We have not given up. We're probably going to take this to the community now and try to crowdsource it or crowdfund it.
Yes.
And try to guilt, some corporations into giving so that we can do this anyway.
Yes.
But it is going to be a lot harder. And JCPS, again, we're going to have to use substitutes, retired teachers, even college students, because we want to make sure that our kids are exposed to new learning that's happening, and that when they come out of this, they're much better than when they went in.
Sounds
so
good.
I know the money isn't an issue, but I will say this. We was doing number crunching because I've been on Zooms this is getting ready to be the 4th week in a row. And all of these PDs and Zooms, they have paid, just my school alone, $500,000 in like 2 weeks. So like and these Zoom, these are just like educational things that most of, like 10 years worth of teaching, I kind of understand. You don't have to keep on telling me the same thing over and over again. Like, I get it, but it's still a waste of money. So if they're paying just that much in one school in 2 weeks, like, I don't understand how they cannot give to the Black community, especially when you have not been doing our kids right. But that's just I know it wasn't about the money, but when we do talk about JCPS and how they just throw away money, they're not being accountable. All these PDs that I had, it needs to be intentional. I'm not a first-year teacher. I don't need these PDs. You know what I'm saying? But you're paying $500,000 in 2 weeks to this school when half of them already understand backwards planning and stuff like that. So just want to throw that in.
Absolutely. And one of the things that, is infuriating about this is, again, it hasn't been about money, but how can you turn us down in this season? Right now, and what we repeatedly said was, you don't want to be the next Greg Fisher. As the leader, we want you to step up and say, I don't know how, but we're going to make this work, and we will support you. You can get some yeses for us, but this is how you connect to the Black community. We had made it clear and obvious that, evangelism was not part of their goal. Education was. So for you to just, you know, turn a back toward us, you're no different than what the mayor has done to this community. And, you know, there's going to be a penalty for that. And so I'm just hoping that, you know, all of the work that we've done, we've sent it back out to lots of media today. And, you know, in the next couple of days, I hope that, you know, momentum builds again, because so many people have asked for help. That's the thing that kills me. All these babies are screaming they need help.
Yeah, the one that hurt me most is, because this is another thing that we talked about, how can you get a hold of the possibility of child abuse in the home? And then I heard, did you hear about that story in Florida where the little girl was online and mother and father was in the background fighting and the father killed the mother? You know,
Yeah.
that is not just in Florida, that's all over. We know it's happening. We know it's occurring.
Right.
Because everybody's in trauma. Everybody's in trauma. So how do you, you know, grasp hold of that, you know, because in their plan that they showed us, there's all this support for teachers, this mental support for teachers. And I understand that. But guess what? The parents and the students need that same mental support.
And Danita, what you said is so true. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but you got me wanting to preach for a second. Because the issue is, that is exactly the issue. There is no better institution in our community set up to build relationships, to offer support, guidance, education, leadership, trauma support even, than the Black church. There's just no other institution. They've been doing it for 200 years.
Right.
And they have continued. And we specifically asked for the smaller church. We asked for, the coalition is really churches that have between 50 and 300 congregants, because we wanted the storefront, we wanted the corner. And the only mandates were that they had Wi-Fi already, and that their building was in condition to accept students, verifiable, you know, in good shape. And so again, he said no. He said no. We would not be working with them.
Okay, so how can we fit this? I need us to get to these demands. How can we fit that in one of the demands? And then what is our list of demands? Because I know that I don't want to, you know, like just meet to meet. I want to come out of this meeting with something that we can start making flyers of or whatever. So just that conversation, just right there, how can we put that in a demand? Even though they said no, we still need to demand it.
Well, I like the proposal. I can bring that up to the Coalition for West Louisville Neighborhoods, get the neighborhood associations involved in it. We'll sign on any letter that you send out, this next letter. You got to have a lot of organizations on that letter, not just you.
Right. But we got to have our list of demands too.
Well,
so how do we write it up as a demand though?
Proposal, right? It's not just the learning pods. It's all of this, right? It's
hers is a proposal. Ours is a demand that the proposal go through.
Right, but there are lots of proposals that could be demanded at the same time, no?
We need to, what she specifically said in her proposal needs to be a demand. Like we need to have hubs in the West End that are able.
Yes.
Yeah.
That work through the Black churches and the Black sites and community centers. Those were specific to that proposal. And that is the only proposal like that they have.
Okay, Greg, did you get that written down?
Did you say JCPS denied wanting to work with them?
Right.
Hold on, Greg, did you get that written down?
No. Would you repeat that again, Ms. Penix? The demand portion.
Say again, I'm sorry.
I'm a slow typer. Can you repeat the demands?
No, hers is a proposal.
is
proposal
for the
start?
neighborhood hubs, and that includes the Black churches and community center sites in West Louisville, Newburgh, and Shively.
West Louisville, Newburgh, Shively. So we demand learning hubs in Black churches and Black organization or community centers
Yes.
in the West End, Shively, and Newburgh area. And we just need to make sure it says specifically Black churches and community centers.
Can I ask a question real quick?
Uh-huh.
What is it exactly, if we have the churches already signed on, what is it exactly are we asking from JCPS?
The staffing, the in-kind contribution of staffing for those churches. We do not, if we don't get JCPS staffing, it becomes the Sunday school teacher at the church becomes the tutor. And while we love the Sunday school teacher, we know that in order for our kids to come back having not lost additional time, but having gained new knowledge, we need those that are working in the schools or have worked in the schools to be that tutor.
So is it possible that since we have so many teachers that are already working from home, that they just agree to do their Zooms from the hub?
No, that won't be possible at all. And that's because that goes against contract. And there's also new regulations that KDE put out today about, what could happen in schools and what can happen out of schools regarding the use of classroom teachers.
I have a question. So are you advocating that the children do their NTI work somewhere else and then go to the church to get the extra tutoring help? Or are you advocating that they actually do their NTI work at a church or a hub?
Both. Most of the center sites are 5-day-a-week operations. Kids who go to the Boys and Girls Clubs, Cabbage Patch, would go almost all day, every day. But the kids that the Black church wanted to service are kids that would only come there 2 times a week, 3 hours each time. And during that total 3 hours, 1 hour would be spent with NTI support, make sure the child has their assignments, they know what they're doing, even communicate with the teacher if there's a problem. And then the other hour, reading, tutoring, and the other hour, math.
And Michelle, when do you need an answer to this? Like yesterday, obviously?
We were expecting it. We were expecting it Friday. I guess our only saving grace, and some of you guys can probably answer this better than I can now, is that I've been told that the first 2 weeks are for relationship building. And so I think that, gives us a little bit more time to actually get up and start going. But in order to get these people in those places, to make sure the bandwidth is supportive of it, to set up the food contacts at these locations, we needed to know yesterday.
And the district indicated they're not going to do anything, as opposed to, they didn't say we're going a different direction. They just said, we're not doing any of this.
No, they said no, they're not doing anything. And we, said, I wish, at the very minimum, they could have told us 3 weeks ago that they were never going to consider this. And if they hadn't said that, I wish they would have said, I would have even went for, let's start the year. Let's see how the kids do. We're expecting greater participation, and then we'll relook at it. But it was just a flat out, no, it's not going to happen.
Well,
and they already pay some, like Bates, I know, has a program that helps with students, and they go over to Mazik after school programs and stuff. So when those, they're not going because the buildings are not open, and are they trying to save money that way? I mean, what are they going to do with that money then?
I don't know. I know that the governor's proposals today actually gives an opportunity, and this is the first time they put it out, for schools to open to see that some targeted students can be brought into the building. But still, those Black churches and centers we're talking about were only able to see at a maximum 1,500, 2,000 students. We know that we have, 70,000 that could probably benefit from some extra support. So there was room for everybody at the table. JCPS just has not said they wanted us at the table.
Wow.
So that could be one of our demands. Is that what we was talking about? That would be a demand that we're asking.
Yeah.
Okay.
Because they need help. They need help. And the more the merrier. They need help. They don't know what they're doing. Everybody's in the dark on this.
Right, well, and I'm getting the sense this needs to kind of go ahead of everything else we've been working on, because this needs to happen yesterday, even if we're continuing to work on our list of people's agenda demands. Or are we saying, let's just get this out there and roll it up as part of it? I'm a little lost on the execution piece.
I'm just trying to get all of the demands right now. I do think that we can pull this demand out and start with it, and just, with media attention and doing the support. Since they've already said no, I mean, we can definitely come out and talk about that. But I definitely want to have the rest of these demands. What all are we demanding?
Okay, so let me go to the student assignment proposal. Was the most urgent and still needs to be front and center. And I've kind of narrowed it down into 3 categories. First is to identify, and we use the REAP. We demand a REAP to identify where these disparities are. So we know we can't make final decisions until we have assessed the situation. And then we have to abolish known barriers, which is part of what the current proposal is intending to do, but it doesn't go far enough. So we've got some additional demands associated with that that they can implement right away. And then have long-term goals, setting diversity goals to strive for future improvements to the plan. So that's what student assignment is condensing down to. The next 2 slides are just a continuation of the conversations and things as they come up. It's still very broad. It still needs to be condensed and consolidated. It can be rolled up under the demands under the safe demand schools. And this is just the local implementation and can be listed as examples of things that we're demanding under that broader category. And again, we have funding for pods in here already from the divest and invest standpoint. So the situation for Michelle is already part of this subset that we're working with. So it fits into why we would step forward and put it into action right away.
Greg, can you read that back? How did he write that up?
If it was on the slide, I'm not retyping that. I can read back the one on the hubs. Is that what you're at?
Yeah.
Yeah, hold on one second. Proposal, learning hubs, including Black churches and community centers in West Louisville, Newburgh, and Shively areas, need to be funded and supported by JCPS.
Okay. So that's going to go up under these demands?
Yes, they're still broad. And if somebody wants to work with me, a couple of people want to work with me to try to help condense this down into more digestible statements, let me know. And maybe we can do that in the next couple of days.
Yeah.
Anybody on board with that?
Yeah. Okay. So, we got learning hubs. We have student assignments. We have divest from the, what do we call it? The SROs.
And it can be broader than that, using the idea of safety and expanding on all the things that make our Black students feel unsafe would fall under that as well.
Okay, and then do we have one for testing? Like, what are we saying? What are we saying about testing? Like over testing? All I know is they said like these MAP tests that they're going to be taken at home, and it's just not going to be a good indication. I'm a math teacher, and we're supposed to give these math tests without calculators, and it's just I don't even understand why we're even doing math testing if we're not. I mean, I don't know. So what are we saying about testing? Is
The
that
only
on
thing
there?
that's on there is abolish standardized testing, but I think you're right, Tia. I think that, again, that puts poor and Black kids at a disadvantage because we know that everyone else is going to have help taking that test. And mama's sitting there saying, no, that's not the right answer, whereas our kids don't
Absolutely.
have that option.
Right.
So I don't think we should do map testing this year. I think everything should just be pretty much just instruction, period. Academic instruction, period. No testing. We'll worry about testing when we can get back into the school.
So MAP testing should be suspended until in-person return to school?
Yeah, we can maybe say no, we demand that there is no NTI standardized testing or whatever. Like that makes it.
Okay.
And
No
in-person
standardized
school
testing.
starts September 28th.
Is that 6 weeks?
In-person school, September 28th.
Okay.
Is that 6 weeks for Jefferson County?
For Jefferson counties. It's,
Because I thought we were out for
I just
6
heard the
weeks.
date. And that's.
I don't know if that's for Jefferson County. We're out for 6 weeks. Am I correct?
Yeah, it's September 28th. That's 6 weeks
Oh, it
for
is?
Jefferson
Oh,
County.
is
Yeah.
Well, I guess it is almost October, huh?
Yeah.
Okay. So I know y'all been looking at this more. So we got Learning Hub, student assignment, divesting of SROs, no NTI standardized testing. Okay, I see. Wait, somebody had something up there. It looked like demands.
That's student assignment. And then this is a bunch of stuff. I have abolished standardized testing on this list of divest, invest.
How do we want to say like following COVID restrictions going in? Because I just feel like they're not going to do anything. Like right now I have 28 kids assigned to one of my periods. So even when we go back in, I don't know if that's going to be overcrowded in my room, you know, like
Yes, it will be. Yes.
So
you still have this list of demands. Do you remember this? Oops, sorry. The whole thing isn't showing right now. I can.
Yeah, the demand safe schools includes
no reopening.
CDC guidelines, and it goes a little further too, to include up-to-date HVAC systems or adequate HVAC systems before we ask students to return to school during the pandemic.
So
Let me see if I can pull it up.
yeah, so we've got demandsafe.schools.org.
Oh, I'm gonna say something. I was just at this apartment who were talking about their meeting with their principal that stated that he made mention, like a slip up talking about after spring break about going back to school. I don't know how true that is, but the district might be talking about something with principals that they're not talking to the teachers about.
Wow.
Which is even more reason to get these learning hubs going.
The proposal we wrote too was, you guys, was based on quarters. Originally, it was acceptable, or at least we were told, to even write it up until January 2021. So, yeah, I don't think anybody thinks right now that September 28th, somebody will be going back.
Hardin County thinks they are.
Right. They'll be shut down again by then.
Yeah, we're not in the recovery stage yet. We are still seeing a spike in cases.
Yeah, I know
So-
private schools have gone back. My
So-
grandbabies are back at school. Private schools have gone back to school in person.
But this is just my personal opinion because I have a sick mother. I think I do more than the average to have a sick mother. But she motivates me and tells me to go. But as far as my kids going back to school, they won't be going back in person until they can get this pandemic under control. So they need to have an option for those that don't want to.
Well, they've got my grandbabies. They go to school at 5 to 9 people in the kids in the classroom.
That would be wonderful.
Okay, and I think we do need to mention one of the demands needs to be focused on the mental support of Black and brown children right now during this civil unrest.
And the parents.
Absolutely.
So
I've had about 3 mothers calling me from last time, just crying. I mean, crying buckets of tears.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to talk them through it. I didn't know what else to do. I'm not a mental therapist, but we're all in trauma.
Right.
So how do you want to say that, Tia? Mental health supports for students and families.
Yeah, you got it up there. Mental health supports for all.
I think
yeah.
Around the events that have unfolded.
Well, and this is one other thing that I want to address that y'all know I have been on this soapbox for the beginning of my teaching career, which is, I don't know how many students we have lost this summer, but how are they identifying which students are really in need? Like they should be identifying, we shouldn't have to just see somebody break down like after 6 months or whatever, and then find out all of this craziness. Like we should be able to, JCPS should care enough to identify some students that might be directly affected by this senseless gun violence that's going on, and help support those students, like just without even really asking, but just like help support them. So I don't know if we want to put that in there along with the mental illness, but I think they need to do their part in trying to identify which students really are in that critical crisis.
They need to.
I just talked to one of my parents today who was telling me how she's right in the middle of it. Section 8's not doing any more hearings, so they're not able to move out of their violent neighborhood.
And let me say, you guys, one, I've got another meeting at 6. I'm gonna have to jump off, but let me tell you how that can happen. That happens when JCPS agrees to start working with grassroots organizations that have relationships with the communities and are able to say, this happened last night on this street. And so that the family who was most affected doesn't have to make a phone call the next morning and say, my daughter got shot. But instead, the pastor, the neighborhood director can make those phone calls and keep them involved. But until JCPS makes those community connections, then Tia, you're never going to have that done. And that's the part that is so unfortunate. The other piece that I would just say is it says mental health supports for all. That should say daily. When we come back, when you guys go back, sorry. When you guys go back in person, there should be mental health, social, emotional learning activities at least for 30 to 60 minutes a day for at least 6 months after coming out of this. So those should be things that should be happening daily. One of the things that one of the Y daycare centers told me that absolutely shocked me, and I had not even considered that, was the largest issue they had in starting to take kids in July and August was that the younger kids came back crying all day, and not because they were, you know, didn't want to do the activities or something of that nature. They cried all day because they had been home with their mom for 6 months. And they've never had that much time with their family. And so now to put them back in school, they were traumatized. They wanted their mommy. And so that's what I think that's a big part of that. It should be daily. That should be a demand.
Okay.
That we spend an hour a day working with kids, helping them, support them mentally as they return to school to digest everything that's happened.
Yeah, that's good. We did ask them, we told Diane Porter and we told them, we're looking at your plans. We're looking at how you came to develop these plans. And the people that were on the committees were just your administrators and your teachers and your principals, but we didn't see anybody like a student. You had no students and you had no parents involvement, but you did have town hall meetings. But you know, getting feedback and having a sustained appearance on a committee are two different things.
Yes.
They should have constant participation, you know, on their committees of students and parents. They should be on the committees. Don't go to them wanting feedback at a town hall meeting.
Right.
Yep.
You can interpret it and present it in a report the way that fits your narrative.
Yep. All right, keep me posted, you guys.
Okay.
See you later.
Thank you.
I gotta go.
Thank you.
Yeah, we all gotta go. We got a meeting coming up in 30 minutes and I need a break.
Some good ideas, and I can work on this and get back to you.
Anita,
Yeah.
do you want to add that do I need to type that in the notes on the administrators need to be, how do you want to say that?
The committees that they form to develop the new year, the new school year, they should have a sustained presence of parents and students on those committees.
On everything. I mean, this whole call has been about how we've all been shut out and pushed out, and we demand a seat at the table. That's the last bullet on whatever our demands list is, because this needs to be an ongoing involvement. They can't just, like you said, come and get feedback and then try to go back and make it work for themselves. They can't self-police. So I don't know if we want to call it seat at the table or if there's a better way to phrase it, but it ultimately needs to be grassroots, authentic grassroots, impacted voices need to be heard.
Sustained presence on all meetings, all committees, all committee meetings.
All right. Anybody else have anything they want to say? I know several people have to go. When do we want to meet again? There's a board meeting tomorrow night, school board meeting tomorrow night. If anybody has a chance to contact board members and express their concerns about any of these things before they get together, it can help influence them in the long run.
Well, I won't contact Brenda Duncan. She's mine. I'll contact Corey Show.
All right. Are you going to start talking about or the thing with Michelle? All of the above?
Gay, is that board meeting on Zoom?
It will be on Zoom. Oh, by the way, currently because of COVID, they don't allow public comment because they're doing everything via Zoom, and because why would the oppressor give away anything until it's been demanded of them? There is no public comment opportunity other than to write up your submission, and they put it in the minutes. It's not read publicly. There's no link for the public commenter to be heard.
You can change your clothes. Same pictures.
Sent an email to them last week, and I don't know if he's heard back yet, but he encouraged them to allow video submissions and live people to Zoom in live and make their 3-minute speeches. But by tomorrow night, don't expect it to happen. So we need to get noisy about that. If you want to contact your board member, that might be a good way to put some immediate pressure on them. Is just, why can we not be heard? We have so much we want to say. And we have to make sure they open that door up before the September 29th meeting. So, does that answer your question, Dre?
It does. Where can I get the link for the Zoom though?
So if you go to the JCPS website, I usually type in the words JCPS board meetings or JCPS board materials, and it'll take you to a page that has their agenda. And then you click on that date, and then it'll take you to a link for the recording or for the live stream. I can try to email it around if you want me to send it to the board.
Who should I send the notes to that can get it out to the rest of the crew that was on here?
I don't mind if you send it to me, and I can use it to make sure that I incorporate those notes into the slide edits, and then send it around if you want me to do that.
Okay. Thank you.
Sure. Thank you. Thank you for taking notes. Anyone else have anything to add? Did you have any luck with KFTC, Greg?
You know, Cordia and I were supposed to hook up, and we missed each other on yesterday talking. We were initially talking about a car rally to Hardin County on Thursday, and now I am just knee deep. I've got a really needy team. Brand new teachers, they can't get connected to their Jefferson County emails, which just makes it all the more a lot more hoops to jump through. I'm hoping we can still put something together in the way of a car rally to Hardin County Thursday, but I'm kind of waiting to hear back from No Justice, No Peace and Surge and see if they're on board.
Did you connect with Anastasia? Is she still around?
No, she kind of took a leave of absence with KFTC, and I don't know the story of that whole fallout, but she'd be a fantastic person to reconnect with, maybe even invite her to this group.
That's a good idea, because what she wrote clearly shows she understands the dynamic and could be a good communicator to some of these more complex issues. So it would be good to have her on our team. I don't know if anybody knows how to reach her. I don't know if it was a KFTC email before. I don't think so. I actually think I have like a Yahoo.
Yeah, she's got to be in somewhere in my emails.
Yeah, let's reach out to her and see. And then in the meantime, it'd be great if KFTC would still take on a piece of this. So if you do get a chance to connect.
Yeah, I don't know where Cordia is. I left her a message. So she's back up and running with schools. They're back in school in person in Clark County. So maybe, I don't know what the story is. I'll keep you updated.
Alrighty. And L-Surge, you're trying to get a meeting with them as well?
Yeah, although I don't know, your name may be Mud. It hadn't been a overwhelming response on it. I don't know. Everybody's got so much going in different directions. It more than anything else.
Well, and it's not about me. It's about the knowledge that I'm trying to partake or impart on them about the predatory practices that the district is undergoing. And they've seen some of it. So if I can explain what they were watching, I think the light bulb would click, because what Michelle described that happened to her is exactly what happened to Latasha and me, trying to work with the district on getting them to work with grassroots organizations and listen to impacted stakeholders. And somehow we were led along and then nothing. So it's time that the district gets some pushback, and we need to all align. I don't understand why it would be anything other than
I don't know either. My name may be Mud with them too. I saw Carla Carla and Sonia, but I don't know. I'm stretched really thin, and I've got to really put my attention on this at least next 3 days to get through to the Thursday at 3 is a deadline for a lot of crap, and it's
I hear you. I hear you.
spread all over.
I think there are some things that are going to just start snowballing, though, that they won't be able to control. And the sooner we're ready with our messaging and on the right side of history, we're on the right side of history. Others will get on board. It's not a matter of yes or no. It's a matter of when. And I would be embarrassed to be some of them if they're standing on the wrong side when the dust settles. That's all I'm going to say. All right, well, I think that's probably it, guys, unless you can think of anything else. Anyone?
All right. Talk soon.
All right, thanks, guys.